A deep dive into the underbelly of the American economy reveals a troubling reality. The strategic exploitation of globalization, the prison system, and undocumented immigrants has forged a functional modern-day slave class. This trifecta of low-wage, high-control labor benefits a select few: corporations and the government, while exacting a heavy toll on the economic stability and social fabric of the average American citizen. Through suppressed wages, job displacement, and the erosion of labor standards, this system perpetuates a cycle of inequality that is both staggering and systemic. The architecture of this exploitative system rests on three distinct yet interconnected pillars: the offshoring of jobs to low-wage countries, the leasing of incarcerated individuals for pennies on the dollar, and the leveraging of a vulnerable and largely rightless undocumented workforce. Each pillar, backed by statistics and driven by a relentless pursuit for profit and cost cutting, contributes to a formidable downward pressure on the wages and job security of the American workforce. The era of globalization, touted as a vehicle for global prosperity, has, for many Americans, been a race to the bottom. U.S. corporations, in their quest for ever-expanding profit margins, have systemically relocated manufacturing and service jobs to countries with lax labor laws and dramatically lower wages. The data points a stark picture of this exodus and its consequences. According to the Economic Policy Institute, the U.S. lost over 3 million manufacturing jobs due to the trade deficit with China alone between 2001 and 2017. This hollowing out of the American manufacturing sector has had a devastating impact on communities that once thrived on these industries. The impact is not just in job numbers, but in the quality and pay of the jobs that remain. Research from the National Bureau of Economic Research indicates a significant divergence in the manufacturing wage premium. While non-production workers have maintained a wage advantage, the premium for production workers, the very individuals on the factory floor, has plummeted, falling from 12% above non-manufacturing jobs in the early 1980s to a mere 4% in recent years. This downward pressure is a direct result of the vast wage disparities. For instance, the average hourly wage for a manufacturing worker in the United States is over $25, while in many popular offshoring destinations, it can be a fraction of that. This global labor arbitrage allows companies to slash production costs, boosting their bottom line, while American workers are left to compete with a global workforce willing to work for far less. Within its own borders, the United States houses another readily available and exceptionally cheap labor pool: its massive prison population. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution, while abolishing slavery, includes a critical exception: except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. This loophole has been exploited to create a system of labor that is, in many respects, a modern form of bondage. Nearly 800,000 of the 1.2 million people in U.S. prisons are part of this workforce. Their wages are shockingly low, averaging between 13 and 52 cents per hour for jobs that range from maintaining the prisons themselves to working for private corporations. In some states, incarcerated individuals work for no pay at all. This labor generates billions of dollars in goods and services annually. For example, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation has estimated that its inmate firefighter program saves the state around $100 million a year. This practice directly undercuts the wages and employment of non-incarcerated workers. Businesses that use prison labor gain an enormous competitive advantage. A report by the Economic Policy Institute highlights that this can lead to job losses for free workers in the local economy, as companies that pay fair wages struggle to compete with those benefiting from virtually free labor. Major corporations, including well-known food and retail brands, have been linked to supply chains that utilize prison labor, profiting from a system that denies its workers basic labor rights and fair compensation. The third pillar of this functional slave class is the nation's population of undocumented immigrants. Estimated to be around 10.5 million people, this workforce is concentrated in some of the most arduous and essential sectors of the economy, including agriculture, construction, and hospitality. Their legal status, or lack thereof, renders them exceptionally vulnerable to exploitation. Undocumented workers consistently earn less than their native-born and legally authorized counterparts. A study published in Econofact found that undocumented workers face a wage penalty of between 14 and 24% compared to legal workers with similar skills. This wage depression is a direct result of the precarious legal standing, which discourages them from reporting wage theft, unsafe working conditions, or other labor abuses for fear of deportation. Despite their significant economic contributions, undocumented immigrants paid an estimated $96.7 billion in federal, state, and local taxes in 2022, $37.3 billion of that being paid to state and local governments. They are often ineligible for the social safety nets that these taxes fund. This creates a one-sided system where their labor is essential, but their rights and well-being are largely ignored. The presence of a large, exploitable workforce in these key sectors creates a ripple effect, suppressing wages for all low-skilled workers in those industries. The cumulative effect of these three forces on the average American citizen is profound and multifaceted. The relentless downward pressure on wages for low and middle-skilled jobs has contributed significantly to income inequality and the stagnation of the middle class. When companies can readily access a cheaper workforce, either abroad or at home, the bargaining power of the American worker is severely diminished. The social and economic consequences of mass incarceration, fueled in part by the economic incentives of prison labor, are devastating for communities, particularly communities of color. The removal of a significant portion of the male population from these communities, coupled with the lifelong barriers to employment and social services that a criminal record creates, perpetuates cycles of poverty and instability. Furthermore, the existence of a permanent underclass of labor normalizes substandard wages and working conditions, making it more difficult for all workers to demand and receive fair treatment. The competition for jobs at the lower end of the economic spectrum becomes a zero-sum game, where the most vulnerable are pitted against each other, while those at the top reap the benefits of a divided and disempowered workforce. Overall, the intertwined practices of offshoring, prison labor, and the exploitation of undocumented immigrants constitute a powerful and deeply entrenched system of labor control that functions as a modern-day form of servitude. While this system provides significant economic advantages to corporations and the governmental bodies, it comes at a steep price for the average American citizen, who is left to contend with a landscape of diminished opportunities, stagnant wages, and a fraying social contract. Addressing this complex issue requires a fundamental reevaluation of our economic priorities and a renewed commitment to the principles of fair labor and human dignity for all. Thank you for watching my video today. If you like what you've heard, please drop me a thumbs up down right below the video. And if you're interested in content like this, I put out new videos every week. Hit that subscribe button. And again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.